Hello and welcome back, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about all the different uses for grass in a garden, especially a vegetable garden. And as you all know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I really enjoy using mulches in my garden because it helps feed the soil as well as can retain moisture and many other great uses. And many people try and stray away from grass mulches because it can sort of attract slugs and things like that sometimes. But if you do it right, with the tips I'm using in my video today, then you should be fine with the problem of slugs. So make sure you watch until the end to get all of my top tips. Before we get started with the video, I'd just like to make sure that you've gone down below, hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon to make sure you're notified next time I upload a video. The main way that I use grass is mulching, and when I do this, I usually do it with grass clippings. I do use hay occasionally, that's if I don't have enough space to put it in the compost, or if I don't need to earth up any potatoes. But sometimes I will use this grass mulch to retain moisture, but mainly because I don't have anywhere else to put it, because in the UK it's a very abundant resource and we have a lot of grass, and because it's such a wet climate it grows really quickly. So for example, last time I mowed the lawn was last week, and I got a whole wheelbarrow and a few big buckets full of grass afterwards. And some people, like I did, would struggle to know where to put this grass. So what I did was I took matters into my own hands, and I decided rather than putting it in the compost and making it all slimy, which is often a problem if it's too thick, then I do light layers of grass mulch around most of my beds. And this is a very light mulch, so I grab a clump of it and I just sort of like wiggle my hand, and this gives a light sprinkling. And if you do this regularly, then it will make a difference, and it does make a difference. But you want to avoid doing really thick mulches, and this is because otherwise it could go slimy, or even worse, it could get too hot and burn the young plants like seedlings or small plants like salads. And that's why you do a light layer, is because slugs and things like that, they won't have as much space to hide. So that's why you want to do thin layers, so that you don't give habitat for the slugs to come and eat things, and you let them go in the hedgerows in their natural habitat, where you can harvest all of your food to yourself without having to worry about slugs. I personally haven't ever experienced a problem with slugs and grass clipping mulches, whereas with hay mulches it's a bit different, but I'll speak about that in a second. But with the grass clippings, I've not experienced with heat either. I haven't experienced them get too hot to kill a plant. I know they do get hot, especially in the compost when they're in big sort of masses, but when they're light mulches I don't experience this as a problem. Down here I have a common example of a problem that people get when they have a hay mulch, and what this is the seeds from the hay. If you cut your hay after it's set seed, is the seeds from the hay germinating and basically becoming a weed because it'll grow the grass. But I don't find this a problem, because yes, the grass does grow through your hay mulch, but it's quite easy to pull out. The roots are quite small and fine, and if you stay on top of it, it's quite actually good for the soil, because when the grass grows out, you pull it and you can just leave it as a mulch on top of the hay, and you've got an extra added bit of hay. And like this, there's some seeds on that bit of hay, and I don't actually mind just sprinkling them there, because it's quite easy to pull out and I don't see a problem with it. I know some people do, and I do find that slugs hide under hay a bit more than with grass clippings, but I still prefer hay because it doesn't get as slimy, and grass clippings, they all smell when they start rotting down, and I don't like the smell of it. And when the hay starts rotting, it doesn't smell nearly as much as the fresh grass clippings do. But here, I'm just going to show you, as I said, with thin grass clipping mulches, you want to do it fine. So what I do is I go and as I said, you wiggle your hand like that, and it just finely spreads out the grass. So what you could do is have a wheelbarrow of your grass clippings, and you go next to the bed where you want to do it, and you just grab a clump and you just go around next to it like that, and then you'll get a fine even covering across all of your beds. Whereas with hay, I would use what I call a blanket mulching method, which is where you just grab it and you just chuck it on as mulches. And this works really well. I even do it on some containers if they're using a lot of water when in dry period. And it also, I find, mulches help to sort of stop erosion, and they help essentially when for example here it was very dusty, and when the wind came through, some of the dust picked up when it was dry. So what I've done is I've put mulches here, and now I haven't got that problem, which is one of the reasons why you should try mulching. And now another way that I use grass in my garden, and you can too, is composting. And I have a great series all about composting on my channel, and it's in a playlist if you want to look for it, called Composting Broken Down. But essentially, when I compost, I use hay as a brown. So that's the good thing with grass, is if you're struggling to get maybe enough greens into your compost bin, which I don't struggle with, but if you were, then you could use grass clippings or freshly cut grass, like you saw at the start of the video, me cutting some grass. You could do that to get some greens. Whereas if you want to get more browns, you could cut longer grass and you could turn it into hay, which is then a brown. So grass is really, really versatile, and I really encourage anyone to use it in their garden, because it's all there and it's pointless not using it. So if you make hay from it, so you could essentially make a perfect compost by just using grass, which is quite cool, because you could use the grass clippings, the greens, and mix it with the dried hay, and really dry hay is the best. And you mix it, and you could even chop it up. I normally chop it up into small bits to increase the surface area. And if you not even mix it, but you just layer it, that'll make a decent compost if you don't have any other ingredients at hand, which is really, really useful. And just like with mulching, I'd encourage you not to do too thick of a mulch when you use grass clippings fresh from the mower, because they do get hot. They are a compost activator, but they do get very slimy and very smelly, and then it attracts flies into your compost bin, which isn't very pleasant. And another thing is, as I just briefly passed by with grass clippings, is compost activators. And if you want a good compost activator, and you don't want to go weeing on your compost heap, because human urine is a compost activator, especially male urine, because it has the right hormones, but I won't go into that now. The grass clippings are another great activator, and they get it really hot. And if you want a hot grass heap, compost heap, and you're struggling to get it to maybe 60 degrees to kill off the weed seeds, just put in a lot of grass clippings and keep mixing it, and you should be fine. It shouldn't get too slimy, and you'll have a nice hot quick compost system. And something less popular that you can do with your grass clippings, especially, not so much hay, is use a bucket, put the grass clippings in, soak them in water, and leave them for maybe 2 weeks, and it'll get very smelly, and you can use this as a liquid feed for high nitrogen things, such as salad leaves, or maybe cucumbers, because cucumbers do like a nitrogen feed every now and then. But I don't use grass clippings to make liquid feed, because I mulch with them, as I said. But what I sometimes do is I use nettles, which is a similar approach, where I just cut them up, but the grass clippings are already cut up when they come out of the lawnmower. You put them in the bucket, and then you soak them in some water, ideally rainwater, and this will get really smelly, and the smellier the better. And then you use this diluted with water, or not too diluted with water, but a bit diluted with water, to water and feed things that are sort of low nitrogen. So if something's struggling for nitrogen, or you've got poor soil and you're trying to grow salad, then just give it some grass. And another great use for grass is actually whilst it's still growing, so before you even cut it, and you don't even have to cut it. So this here is a bit that I don't mow anymore, and I left this. I like this as well because it's pretty with the wildflowers, and I've cut it in the same sort of shape as my flower bed, so it all runs together. So you can put this into your design of your garden, and I actually really like having this because I like seeing all the bees there. I think bees are really cool to watch, and very relaxing actually, the sound of them. But also the flowers, like I've got the white clover out at the moment, there's buttercups just coming out as well, and there was loads of dandelions a couple of weeks ago and now they've all finished. But I've also, if say there's a species of wildflower in one part of your garden and you want to sort of spread it and make more areas biodiverse, you can get the seed and you can disperse it there, or you can start it in a seed tray and you can transfer it around your garden so that you've got different wildflowers in different parts of your garden to help the pollinators, because the best thing for pollinators is variety of flowers. And having a diverse range of different varieties of grass and breeds of grass is great, because I've noticed on my wildlife bank that there's been birds pecking at the seeds of the grass, and there's also been birds pecking at dandelion seeds and things. So you're not only feeding the bees with the flowers, you're giving habitat and cover from predators for little insects. You're giving them somewhere to reproduce and breed. You're also giving food for things like birds, so it's helping the whole ecosystem of your garden. And just a small patch like this could do a huge difference. And I've just spotted another flower I've got here, which is speedwell. So something you can do is make a pile of grass, and this can help wildlife. It gives cover, it encourages more composting and biodegrading insects, and what it can also do is encourage slow worms in some places, which then feeds things higher up in the food chain. And I've never had, well, I've seen a couple of slow worms in my garden, but I've never seen them before. But this little patch here is just sort of a nature environment I've made, where I put old logs, leaves, and bits of turf, grass, and I've also got a pile of logs for solitary bees, which has been a bit covered by the lupins now, so it's unlikely to have anything in it. But I encourage anyone to have something like this in their garden, because biodiversity in your garden is very important in the grand scheme of things in the environment as well, because whilst you may not think it's much, but if everyone started doing it, it would make a big difference, because gardens cover a lot of land in the UK and all over the world. So thank you for watching all the way through this video, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope it gave you some more ideas about what you can do with your grass in your garden, and I hope it made you think twice about what you do with your grass. And if you did enjoy, please like, comment and subscribe all down below, and make sure you check me out on my other social media, Instagram and Facebook, on The Welsh Gardener. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.